Hi, it's Tom from Lone Horizons, and welcome to this short video about my random encounter zine that I made a few months ago and put on Drivethru RPG and itch.io. It's called Hexcrawl Horrors, Random Wilderness Encounters for OSR Adventures. And you'll have to excuse my home printing here because it's got a ragged edge. I don't have a guillotine at home to cut a nice clean edge to the pages with. Anyway, what it is it's intended to be used for hex crawling in any OSR game. And the game that I chose to compile it with is Basic Fantasy. Why? Because it's completely free. You can buy the books at cost price on Amazon, or you can just download the PDFs for free. And Basic Fantasy has a lot of monsters in it. It's got its own version of all the standard, classic monsters. There's lots in the rulebook, and then there's also the two field guides, the Basic Fantasy field guide of creatures malevolent and benign. There's two of them, and there's loads more monsters in them. I printed this one at home because at the time I couldn't find it to buy online. But so to go over it then, it's wilderness encounters by terrain type. So hopefully you can see this. There's 10 different types. We've got plains, forests, hills, swamps, mountains, deserts, jungles, wastelands, and then 2 underground ones, caves and tombs. And as you can see, here are the tables. I've done D100 tables and I've crammed in as many types of monster as I can. And I've added a couple of new ones which are bonus encounters that are in the back of the book, but we'll go over them in a bit. The way they work is, on the D100, I've organised them by hit dice. So you'll know how much of a challenge you're in for when you roll, and if you get 99 compared to if you get 1, which makes it quite fun when you're sort of hex crawling completely randomly. As I said, I use it mostly for solo gaming because I want the complete randomness of any monster appearing out in the wilderness when I'm exploring an area that I don't know yet. But I think if you were GMing a game for your players and they're moving into a kind of unknown region that you haven't mapped out completely, I think it could be good for that, where you want to just introduce variety rather than an area that is plagued with goblinoids or whatever. So another bit about how they're arranged, I've got like a higher chance of animals and humanoids appearing, and then a sort of lower chance of weird monsters in here. So like if you look down here, doppelganger in the hills, you might encounter doppelgangers in the hills, but only on a roll of 75, whereas bugbears, the more common humanoid monster, they are encountered on 64 to 66. So that's 3% chance of getting them, whereas only 1% chance with the doppelganger, and so on. So you've got like bandits. I've listed bandits aren't actually statted in the Basic Fantasy rulebooks, so I've added bandits to the back of the zine for you. So to begin with, I'll just demonstrate how you use it, and I think the best thing to do is probably read the page from the zine itself. So how to read the tables. Firstly, I've got the links to where you can download the Basic Fantasy books, and then once you've done that, how to read the tables. Once you've rolled your encounter, you'll notice the page number column of the table has either 2 numbers with a slash between them or a number with a text prefix. Here's an explanation. So 1 number, then a slash, and then a second number means the monster is in the core rulebook, the core Basic Fantasy rulebook. The first number is its page number in the 3rd edition, and the second number is the page number for the 4th edition, because while I was working on this, the 4th edition came out, and it's not that different to the 3rd edition, but obviously it's got a different page count, so the monsters aren't all in the same place. So as you can see, I've still got the 3rd edition, but it works fine either way, whichever one you have. So then if it says FG1 and a page number, that means it's in Field Guide Volume 1, FG2 is Field Guide Volume 2, and then HH is the couple of encounters that I've made at the back of the zine itself. So that will be the page number of this book that I'm holding. So yeah, there's some, I won't go through everything, but some of them are like were creatures and vampires and things. So I've put like a little code for whether the encounter happens at night or not, because obviously if it's a vampire and you encounter it during the day, you could do that and get really creative with how you'd interpret that. Like maybe he's trapped in some shade behind a rock or something because he didn't manage to make it back home in time before the sun came up. Maybe you could help him out. I don't know. I love sort of randomly generating things in my games because it gives you ideas that you wouldn't normally have had. So let's see if I just go to one of the random page jungles, okay, and we'll roll on the jungle table with a D100. 52. So we'll look that up, and that is a dinosaur. Oh no, I can't even pronounce that dinosaur name. Deinonychus. And so that is 66/76. So I've got the 3rd edition. So I'll go to page 66. And there it is, Deinonychus. The Deinonychus, sometimes mistakenly called a velociraptor, okay, so that's what it is a medium-sized feathered dinosaur, blah, blah, blah. All right, so it's basically a velociraptor. And you can see here, number appearing. In the wild, it would be 2d3. If they're in a dungeon or whatever, it's 1d3. And in a lair of them, it would be 2d6. And you've got all the basic fantasy stats there. It uses ascending armor class, which you can really quickly convert to descending armor class if you're using a different RPG or whatever. So that's pretty self-explanatory. And one other thing I wanted to mention is if you roll 100, I've put dead creatures roll again, because I've never seen this in an encounter table before. I just think it would be funny if you got an encounter and someone had already killed them. I just think that was a funny thing to put in. You can ignore it if you want. The other thing to mention is I've put the reaction roll table from Basic Fantasy into the zine here at the start. So 2 or less immediate attack, 3 to 7 unfavourable, 8 to 11 favourable, and 12 or more very favourable. I just thought that might be useful to have that in here as you're holding it in your hand. You won't have to look that up in the rulebook. So the only other thing to mention is the bonus encounters at the back of the book. So I've included Bandit and Bandit Veteran. It's pretty self-explanatory, they're bandits. And I've put a table to roll on for what weapon they're using, if you want to do that, add some more randomness to it. And then I've got my little travelling merchant system that I made up for this, because I think travelling merchants are always fun to meet on the road. They give you a bit of role-playing, then they're not necessarily going to turn into a combat encounter like a lot of other ones. If I read this, the following pages list 3 types of travelling merchant from the poorest to the richest. The type that the players encounter is up to the GM, but some guidance on that is given here anyway. What are they selling? They can't carry the entire contents of the BF RPG Equipment Emporium, one of the other books. To avoid writing out long lists of gear in this scene, I've made a table for each merchant type that you can roll on when a player asks if they have a specific item in stock. When I play, no merchants have magic weapons or armour for sale, but you can decide what makes sense for your own game world. Obviously, if you're GMing a long campaign, you'll have that all down already. So, if you get merchants, I can't remember where exactly they are on the tables, but they are not that they're not that uncommon, I don't think. If you roll for merchants, then to choose which type you're going to get, what you do is you roll a d12 and add the distance from the nearest settlement in hexes, then consult the table below. So you'd roll a d12 and let's do it. Let's say we're 3 hexes away from the nearest village. So I'll roll a d12. I get a 2. So that would be 5 with the +3. So we would get a peddler, who is the poorest type of merchant. We've got peddlers, roaming traders, and wealthy merchants. So I won't read out the whole thing, but basically the peddler's stock items worth up to 15 gold pieces, but nothing more expensive than that. Players can inquire about individual items, roll a D100 on the table below to determine whether or not the peddler has it today. So if they want to buy a longbow or something, you would check, I won't check now, but say a longbow was worth, I don't know, it might be quite expensive actually, 15 gold. You would roll a D100, that is 72, and 1 to 75, so like 75% chance they don't have that item because it's expensive and they're just a poor peddler, so that guy wouldn't have one. And then your other players can ask about specific things if they want. The roaming trader is basically similar. I've also got a note about peddlers as well. They can patch up light armor, because I'm imagining the kind of like tinker guy from medieval times who would go from door to door in a village offering repairs, minor repairs. So if a player has padded leather or studded armor that has become useless due to some dungeon mishap, a peddler will repair it for 1 gold piece. This will take around an hour, so you might want to introduce an element of risk during this time, like a wandering monster check, for example. And then you've got roaming traders, who I've adjusted the tables for, so they stock things up to 60 gold pieces. And again, the more expensive items are less likely to be in stock, and the cheaper ones are more likely to be in stock. And then wealthy merchants, these are basically like convoys of caravans and guards. We've got, let's see, the wealthy merchant will be encountered atop a riding horse with a wagon pulled by 2 draft horses and 2d6 horsemen, retainers, specialists and mercenaries chapter of the main rulebook. Half of them will be light horsemen and half will be the medium kind. Okay, so you can see, and I've adjusted the tables for them. So yeah, 3 types of merchants from the poorest to the richest there. So hopefully that adds a bit of value to the zine. I think it's not just the encounter tables. But yeah, I use this all the time in a solo Hexcrawl campaign that I play offline. And if you want to get it, it's pay what you want on itch.io and Drivethru RPG. I'll put the links in the description down below. So I'm more than happy for you to download it for free, because Basic Fantasy is free and I wanted to do something in the spirit of Basic Fantasy. But if you do appreciate the YouTube videos that I'm doing, and I don't have YouTube memberships or Patreon or anything, you're welcome to pay a couple of dollars for it if you want, but it's totally up to you. So anyway, yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.